It's important that you understand what makes you you, because when you actually understand all of the elements that make up who you are, then you'll understand why the questions in the assessment are what they are. But more importantly, you'll understand why you can customize this to fit your needs. But what you have to understand is the foundational elements of what makes you who you are. The two foundational elements are your habits and your genetics. Okay? Your genetics, in essence, loads the gun. Your habits pulls the trigger. And at IDLife, we give you both pieces. Now, let's talk about the competition. Now, I've always said, we're never going to make ourselves, look better by talking bad about somebody else. But there's a lot of pretenders out there. There just are. And one of the biggest things that drives us crazy is the danger associated with what some of these companies are putting out there. Because, see, one of the best things that IDLife does in that assessment isn't what it recommends to our customers and our clients. It's what we keep them from taking. See, it's the danger of things like drug contraindications. Because when you actually look at some of the basic element prescription drugs that are out there right now, for instance, diabetes drugs and vitamin D, who knew that there's actually potential complications there? Well, guess what? The assessment knows that. It's looking for it. The same thing with vitamin A and D and E and magnesium. All of these elements is built into the assessment. But guess what? All of the competition, not a single one of them is taking any of this information into consideration. But they're making recommendations on what you should be taking. So let's look at vitamins based upon a blood test. Blood tests are perfect. I mean, they actually establish a moment in time. They give you a baseline, but they don't take into consideration your drug contraindications. They don't consider your genetics. They sure as heck don't consider your decisions, habits, and lifestyles. They're limited by the panel order, and they tell you what you have a deficiency in, but they don't tell you the cause. See, the problem with the blood test isn't that it doesn't give you good information, because it absolutely does. In fact, there's a real value in understanding where your baseline is, where you start, because that way you can know what ID Nutrition is doing for you later on. But here's the problem when you actually look at what makes you you. It's missing the two foundational elements, your habits and your genetics, how you were made and what you're doing with it. So what about a blood test based upon a questionnaire? Well, we look at that. What's the purpose of the question asked? See, the assessment asks you questions to basically filter you through all of the algorithms that are comparing the scientific articles, the prescription drug information. It's basically making sure you're getting exactly what you're supposed to get. The purpose of most questionnaire-based programs right now that are trying to copy what IDLife has done, they are trying to filter you into the vitamins that they have to sell you. There's a huge difference between those two. The other thing is, what is the science behind the recommendation? See, at IDLife, the science is this. You, not your neighbor, not your spouse, not your children, you need this vitamin in this amount at this time of day until you change the habit that we show you is causing that nutritional deficiency, and then you could use less of it or not need it at all. That's what IDLife does. Now, where are the recommendations based upon everything else, or the science? Every other competitor out there with regard to the recommendations say, oh, by the way, you said that you were concerned about your immune system. Well, did you know that vitamin C helps with the immune system? That's the science. That's not science, folks. That has nothing to do with you. That's not personalizing it to you. It's filtering you into what they have. In fact, when you look at questionnaires by themselves, you notice they're missing some key elements of what make you you. Now, what about DNA? IDLife has DNA, but what are the problems with vitamins based solely on DNA? Well, it's based upon your genetic markers. That's great. It doesn't take into consideration your drugs, your decisions, your habits, or anything else, and it identifies potential nutritional deficiencies. And I want to make sure I make this point clear. IDLife's DNA test identifies potential nutritional deficiencies. It doesn't mean that you actually have the deficiency. What it means is this is how your body metabolizes nutrients. It means you may need a higher amount of fill in the blank. For instance, you may need, if you're MTHFR positive, more dark green leafy vegetables in your life. I'm sure everyone in here gets their daily allotment of dark green leafy vegetables, right? Yeah, exactly. 85% of Americans don't eat their daily recommendations. And the last time some of you ate fruit was, I don't know when. See, that's the problem with genetics. When you actually look at these tests out there that are genetic-based, dealing only with vitamins, here's what you get when it talks about what makes you you. You get that piece. Remember, your genetics are the thing that load the gun. Your habits are what pull the trigger. It's a big component. It is a key component because it's the one thing that you can't control, how you were made. But guess what? It's dangerous if that's the only thing that you're considering. So what's the ideal life difference? What's the ideal nutrition difference? Well, we take consideration everything that you need. Sound scientific reasoning and methodology. Science that is being updated on a monthly basis. You're talking about recommendations based upon a scientific why. It's not necessarily anything that we have to sell. What it is we need to build what it is the science says you need, and most importantly, why you need it and when you need it. Your daily decisions are considered. The nutritional gaps are filled. But guess what? They're not only filled, we also provide you the information of what's causing the nutritional gaps in the first place. So that when you make changes, guess what? You don't need what we currently have for you. You can make the change to personalize it to you, where you are, when you are. Drug and conditions are built in. That's for your protection. And of course, now the genetic information is considered. So when you actually look at the full puzzle of who makes you you, guess what? IdealLife is the only one out there that actually fills that. In fact, when you look at the possibilities, and this is always a question that we get asked, is, all right, well, how many, I mean, if it's personalized, how many really are there? I mean, how many different combinations are there? Well, I'll give you a very conservative number, okay? Over 3.7 million possible outcomes if you don't have genetics. But when you add the genetic component to it, what we end up with is an infinite number of possibilities. What that means is everyone in this room, when you add the genetic component, could have a different ideal nutrition recommendation. That is personalization. That's true personalization. But that genetic piece is important, and let me explain to you why we added genetics in the first place. You know, if you look at, what Francis Collins said about genetics, and it's, he was the director of the National Institute of Health. He said some very key things, and what I want to highlight is really where IdealLife focused in on why we launched genetics in the first place. It's a history book. It's a shop manual, and it's the transformative textbook for medicine. What it's giving us is how you were made, most importantly, why you haven't gotten the results you've been looking for your entire life. Anyone ever tried a diet program that worked for everybody else and didn't work for you? How about a workout program that, just for whatever reason, you did it every day just the way you were supposed to, but somehow you gained weight?
Sure did.
This happens all the time. What this genetic test does, though, is it gives you some key elements of information. So, for instance, when we look at this, it is an actionable genetic report. That was key to IdealLife. We wanted to make sure that we didn't just give you genetics, we gave you something that you can act on. Now, I will tell you, there's a danger with getting your genes done. And for those of you that have already had it done, you know what that danger is. And it's this. If you had an excuse before, you don't have it after you have the report.
True.
Because now you know what's causing it. And the answer is the same as what causes what makes having nutrition individualized. It's you. Stop failing your way to the right answer. Start learning why you're having the results that you are. And I'm going to show you just one example. Okay, because this is one a lot of people struggle with. What about that appetite gene? Personally, my favorite, this is from my genetic report. I am the one in the red category. When you actually look at it, it's basically saying that I have a tendency to overeat. Oh, really? I was 307 pounds after being a college athlete behind a desk. It took me 6.5 years to learn how to lose it. One, I focused around the 40 inches around my waist rather than the 6 inches between my ears.
Yep.
I was focused on trying to lose weight, not change habits. So guess what? I kept losing it, and my habits came right back. But guess what? As I went back up, the many times that I lost it and came back, I didn't gain the same 30 pounds every single time. Because see, when you're losing lean muscle and fat. And when you're putting it back on, you're putting back on fat. Notice there's an element there that I'm missing, and that's that lean muscle component. So guess what? Every time I went up, I gained a little bit more because I didn't have that lean muscle. My metabolism was slower than it used to be. We'll talk about that later this afternoon. But here's the thing. This is why this gene is important. Any of you members of the Clean the Plate Club?
Oh, no.
All right. Have you ever wondered why? See, a lot of people blame themselves. A lot of people are like, well, this is just who I am. If it's in front of me, I'm going to eat it. But if you have this genetic marker, let me explain something to you. The average American only takes about 11 minutes to eat a meal. Okay? We have this wonderful little hormone in our body. It's in our stomach. It's called ghrelin. Think of it like a T-Rex. Okay? It basically tells us we're hungry. I will tell you, Slim Plus does an amazing job making you forget about that. But that's another training. All right, so hunger, ghrelin, 11 minutes to eat. Here's the problem. If you have that little genetic marker, that appetite gene, especially in the red category, it takes roughly about 20 minutes for your leptin, in other words, the thing of, hey, by the way, I'm full, I don't need any more. It takes 20 minutes for that signal to get back to your brain. Well, if you ate an 11 and it takes 20 minutes to get the signal to the brain, does anyone see the problem of why everybody's a member of the Clean the Plate Club?
Yep.
So what do we need to do? Slow down. What we may want to do is while we're cooking dinner, have some small, vegetable appetizer. I know vegetable is kind of a bad word to some people. But have some type of appetizer. What we have to do is give our body a chance to send the signal. Again, it's probably not the food that you're eating, it's how you're eating it, because these genetic markers are playing a big key. In fact, in case you didn't know, the number one thing needed for a digestion is what? Oxygen. But most people use the shovel. Oh, I'm sorry, you call it a fork. Try putting it down between meals and see what happens. If you're dealing with this genetic marker, what I just did is this. I took away all of that guilt that you've always had. I've taken away the blame that you used to give to your mom, your grandmother, and all them that make you sit at the table until you finish your meal. All that's gone now. Okay? Now you understand this is on you. In fact, what's interesting about the report is it's 46 pages of why and how. That's what that report is. That's the power of what you're providing people when they decide to say yes to DNA. But here's the thing. When they say yes to DNA, don't let it stop there. Follow up with them. Talk to them. Because guess what? This is just something that if they just get the report in and they stick it in a drawer, it never becomes what it was intended to be, which is actionable. In fact, what we wanted to do was make it even easier on you. So, Laura and Logan and the team locked me in a room, and what we ended up doing is we created 20 videos that literally explain every single genetic marker so that you don't have to. Now, I will tell you this, I do not have a degree in genetics. I am not a scientist, okay? I don't even play a doctor on TV, okay? But I can tell you, yeah, I just said and most people think I am now a member of the Hair Club for Men. I am not. This is real. I do use collagen twice a day. That is not a product claim. That's true. But here's the thing. We wanted to make it super simple. And in fact, some of you know that we have a brand new app, and you're going to get trained on that this weekend. But let me show you how simple that we've made it. Because when you open up your app, right there, all you have to do is hit that wonderful share button. And when you hit that share button, what's going to do is it's then going to play out, and it's going to give you the opportunity to go and say, okay, what do you want to share? I want to share something on the products. Okay? Now, when you click on the products, it's going to take you to the videos. You can go down and choose the DNA video to share. Okay? The script is already written. You have a text message or an email script. All you have to do is put in the person's name. Then go in and choose the person that you want to send it to. Either create one or use one from your list. Choose the person in the list that you're going to send it to. You then get to decide, do I want to send it in phone? Do I want to send it in email? Okay, you choose that. Then it says, okay, do you want to text message it? Do you want to email it? Do you want a Facebook message? How do you want to send it? And this is the most important key. What kind of reminder do you want for yourself to follow up with it? So see, now nobody has to be a genetics expert. All you have to do is have somebody interested, somebody that wants to know more, and if you know that they struggle with something that they blame themselves their entire life, and now all of a sudden you might be able to give them hope because, hey, they have the same FTO gene marker that I do, which is, you have that tendency where your body wants to regain weight easily. I'm sure no one wanted that marker, but hey, I've got it. No, everybody wants the marker that Laura Brandt has that basically says she doesn't have to work out to lose weight, she just has to watch the diet. In fact, working out will actually make her gain weight. Can you imagine that? How many people right now are working themselves to death and not getting results? They may have the same genetic marker. Now you have the ability to empower people with information. See, because what we offer at ID Life is two pieces, the habits and the architecture. They get both. They get the habits for free. The architecture is how they may put them together. You have your own owner's manual. You know how things work now. You know what's going to work for you. And again, what have we eliminated? The excuse. Now, the one thing you need to understand about ID Life is we're never happy where we are. In fact, this is kind of our commitment. We're committed to bringing our customers and associates the highest quality products available. It remains vigilant in our efforts to constantly evolve, improve, and be the best at anything and everything that we do. We have a lot of very interesting things that we're working on related to ID nutrition, genetics, and the next evolution of what ID Life is going to become. You're going to be hearing about those, not this weekend, because they're not ready yet. But what you are going to hear this weekend is our commitment that there's some really interesting things coming. We're working with some really interesting groups. But the most important thing you should get from this weekend is this. ID Nutrition is the world's only truly personalized body platform, exclamation point. You now have the tools, you now have the resources, and most importantly, you have the information. All you have to do is go out there and share it. Thank you.